What's good, y'all? Dr. Dominic Stevens back again with another Confessions of a Black Scientist, aka the scientist who live. I kind of fucked that up, but it's all good. We're gonna keep rolling. We're gonna keep rolling. So this week, I was actually talking to one of the undergrads in our lab, and we got on the topic of minorities, and I had to explain to him my position and my take on people of color and how that's like POCs were, and we all POCs were kind of mushed and pushed together into one group to kind of water down people who look like me in this minority group. So first and foremost, I'm gonna say this: when I talk about minorities, I'm talking about marginalized people, and a friend of mine would say monetized people. But and I'll say this, and I kind of don't care if you like the opinion or not. It's my opinion. Take it or leave it. But it is my opinion, or I don't think it's opinion. I think it's fact that actually white women aren't minorities. Period. Like they are not minorities. One, they are a large group, especially in my field. They're a large group of white women in the field that are in positions of power, that are like they make up a good majority of the people in the field. First and foremost. Secondly, to be a minority, you have to like, and so with white women, they tend to either want to be a minority or want to be a majority. When they are a minority, they're trying to get something. When they're a majority, they're calling police on black folks. So they don't they try to pick and choose what they want to be. But as we've seen this past year, they are just as much or just as bad as perpetrators, and I always thought that they were just as bad as perpetrators of racism and discrimination. For example, Emmett Till, all the police, all the callings on the police of black people, of black little, and then little black kids too, and all this other stuff. But fuck that, I'm not trying to go into that. But that's how I feel. But we're gonna go into actual people of color. So I told him, I was like, hey man, there's levels to this shit. There's levels to being a person of color, and there's levels to being a minority, right? So you're on this totem pole, and I told him, I was like, look, man, black men and women, we're at the bottom of this totem pole. They put like we were trying to gain traction, and other minorities came in and they tried to group us into this people of color and watered down our blackness, pretty much, or watered down our push for equality, right? So in this, I gave him a really good example because I noticed that no hate to the Asian community, but how a lot of the Asian community tried to kind of jump on the bandwagon when they started to get some hate their way. So, and I explained it to him like this. I was like, look at the Black Lives Matter protest, right? There was so many counter protests to Black Lives Matter. So there was oh yes, Black Lives Matter, and then other people came in and was like, whoa, what about all lives? And then Blue Lives Matter and all this other stuff started counter protests to water down our protests, right? And then during the pandemic, Stop Asian Hate came out. But there was zero counter protest. There wasn't no stop all hate. There wasn't stop police hate. There wasn't none of that. There was just like, oh well, yeah, let's jump on board with that. And then they get legislation passed to help stop that Asian discrimination. But as black people, we sit there and we're just kind of like, what about us? So I know you're thinking, it was like, okay, Dominic, what are you talking about? And so like, and to put this back into into a science perspective, right? In many labs, like they tried to say, oh, we're such a diverse lab, we have so many minorities and blah 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 blah, when they really just have white women or Asian people in the lab, and that's their minorities when they're typically in STEM, they're the majority, and it's qualification for minority is so low. They was just like, oh well, shoot, anything that isn't white male is a minority, and it's completely BS, complete and utter BS. So I say that to say this: you got to know that there's levels to people of color, and there's levels to my being a minority, right? Some minorities are treated worse than other minorities, and people are just like, oh, you're a minority, everybody's the same, and blah blah blah, and that's not true. Because if you look at the LA riots back in the I want to say the 1980s and 1970s, it was because a Asian woman shot and killed a young black female. So you got to understand that we're not all treated the same. We're just not all this a monolith, person of color, crapped into this like little ball, and you can't treat all minorities the same way, because minorities don't treat minorities the same way. You know what I'm saying? Like all minorities, like in like above, like on this totem pole of person of color, always treat black people the worst. So I say that to say this: just be mindful. Just be mindful of the person that you have in front of you. I mean, every person's experience isn't the same, and it's not going to be the same. But just don't think, oh, they're a minority, they range into that group, and it's not true. So be mindful. That's all I gotta say. That's all the time I got for you guys this week. See you guys on another episode of Confessions of a Black Scientist. Peace.